As a journalist, I've always believed that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried. This conviction was put to the test when a story landed on my desk that would challenge my resolve and endanger my life. It all began with the shocking death of Enoch, a prominent politician in our Nigerian state. The news broke that he had been found lifeless in a hotel room, accompanied by a young woman named Amara, rumored to be his mistress. The scandal sent shockwaves through the community, not only because of Enoch's stature but also due to the circumstances surrounding his demise. Enoch's wife, Zilla, was a woman of grace and influence. At 50, she had stood by her husband's side throughout his political career, often seen as the pillar behind his success. The revelation of his infidelity, coupled with his untimely death, left her devastated. Public sympathy poured in for Zilla, painting her as the grieving widow wronged by her unfaithful spouse. In contrast, Amara was vilified. Society was quick to brand her as the homewrecker, the seductress responsible for leading Enoch astray. The police wasted no time in arresting her, charging her with involvement in Enoch's death. The evidence seemed circumstantial at best, but the court of public opinion had already deemed her guilty. As I delved deeper into the case, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Amara's cousin, Ifeoma, a seasoned journalist herself, reached out to me, pleading for help. She was convinced of her cousin's innocence and was determined to uncover the truth. Together, we began our investigation, facing numerous obstacles along the way. Zilla, despite her grief, was thrust into the political spotlight. With the gubernatorial elections looming and her husband's sudden absence, the party saw an opportunity. They rallied behind her, capitalizing on the public's sympathy and her established presence in the political arena. Opponents within the party who dared to challenge her candidacy found themselves outmaneuvered, as Zilla utilized her resources and her late husband's connections to secure her position. Meanwhile, Ifeoma and I encountered resistance at every turn. Key witnesses were unwilling to speak, and official records seemed tampered with. Our persistence led us to a crucial discovery: the autopsy report on Enoch's death had been falsified. The original report, hidden away, revealed that Enoch had been poisoned, a detail conveniently omitted from the public narrative. The implications were staggering. If Enoch had been poisoned, then Amara's presence at the scene might have been a setup. But who stood to gain the most from Enoch's death? The more we uncovered, the more the pieces pointed towards a calculated scheme, with Zilla emerging as a potential orchestrator. As the election day approached, we knew that revealing this information was imperative. However, our attempts to publish the story were thwarted by threats and intimidation. Ifeoma received anonymous warnings, and I found myself under surveillance. The stakes were higher than ever, but the truth had to be told. On the eve of the election, we managed to secure a platform to broadcast our findings. The revelation sent shockwaves through the state, casting doubts on Zilla's candidacy and prompting a re-examination of Amara's case. The narrative was shifting, but the battle was far from over. This story is a testament to the lengths individuals will go to for power and the resilience required to uncover the truth. The events that followed would test our courage and commitment to justice, leading us down a path fraught with danger and uncertainty. The morning after our broadcast, the atmosphere in the state was electric. News outlets buzzed with the scandal, and social media platforms were ablaze with debates and discussions. Zilla's pristine image was now marred by allegations of deceit and murder. The political party that had once stood firmly behind her was now in disarray, scrambling to manage the crisis. Ifeoma and I knew that our revelation was just the beginning. The evidence we had presented raised more questions than answers. While the falsified autopsy report suggested foul play, it wasn't definitive proof of Zilla's involvement. We needed concrete evidence to substantiate our claims and to exonerate Amara. Determined to uncover the truth, we decided to delve deeper into Enoch's personal and political life. Our first lead came from an unexpected source, a former aide of Enoch's who had resigned shortly before his death. Meeting discreetly in a secluded cafe, he revealed that Enoch had been planning to expose a massive embezzlement scheme within the party, a scheme that implicated several high-ranking officials, including Zilla. According to the Lled, Enoch had discovered that funds meant for public projects were being siphoned into private accounts. He had gathered substantial evidence and was preparing to go public, intending to cleanse the party and restore public trust. This revelation painted a new motive for his murder, silencing him before he could unveil the corruption. With this information, I sought access to Enoch's personal documents. Gaining entry to his residence was out of the question, given the heightened security and media presence. However, we learned that Enoch maintained a private office in a less conspicuous part of town, a place he used for personal projects away from the political spotlight. Under the cover of night, we approached the building. The office was modest, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Using a set of keys provided by the former Lled, we let ourselves in. The room was neat, with shelves lined with books and a desk cluttered with papers. It was evident that Enoch had spent considerable time here. Rifling through the documents, we found financial records, correspondences, and a journal. The financial records detailed transactions that corroborated the Lled's claims of embezzlement. Large sums of money had been diverted to accounts linked to shell companies, all tracing back to individuals within the party. The journal, however, was the most revealing. In it, Enoch had meticulously documented his findings, his suspicions, and his fears. He wrote about confrontations with Zilla, expressing his disillusionment with her involvement in the corruption. One entry stood out. Enoch mentioned receiving threats, warning him to abandon his investigation. He expressed concern for his safety but remained resolute in his mission to expose the truth. As we pored over the journal, a chilling realization dawned upon us. Enoch had suspected that his life was in danger, yet he continued his pursuit of justice. His unwavering commitment had ultimately cost him his life. Armed with this new evidence, we faced a dilemma. Releasing the information would undoubtedly clear Amara's name and implicate Zilla and her accomplices. However, it would also plunge the state into political turmoil, potentially destabilizing the government and affecting countless lives. We decided to consult with legal experts and trusted colleagues. Their consensus was clear: the truth must be revealed, but it had to be done responsibly. We needed to ensure that the evidence was irrefutable and that the authorities were prepared to act decisively. In the days that followed, we collaborated with law enforcement agencies, providing them with the documents and insights we had gathered. Parallel investigations were launched, and several officials were placed under surveillance. The media maintained a cautious distance, aware of the sensitivity of the situation. As the gubernatorial election approached, pressure mounted on Zilla. Public opinion had shifted dramatically, with many calling for her withdrawal from the race. Her once loyal supporters were now divided, and the party faced internal strife. Despite the mounting evidence against her, Zilla remained defiant. In public appearances, she portrayed herself as the victim of a smear campaign, accusing her opponents of exploiting her husband's death for political gain. Her charisma and eloquence swayed some, but the shadow of doubt loomed large. Behind the scenes, Zilla's influence was waning. Key allies distanced themselves, fearing collateral damage. Financial backers withdrew their support, and her campaign struggled to maintain momentum. The once unified front of the party was now fractured, with factions emerging in opposition to her candidacy. Amidst the political upheaval, and I continued our pursuit of justice for Amara. With the new evidence in hand, we filed a motion for her immediate release and the dismissal of all charges. The legal process was arduous, met with resistance from those still loyal to Zilla. During this time, received anonymous threats, warning her to cease her investigation. Undeterred, she fortified her resolve, drawing strength from the knowledge that exposing the truth was the only path to justice. One evening, as we reviewed the case files, a brick was hurled through the window, shattering the glass and narrowly missing Ifeoma. Attached to it was a note, "Stop, or face the consequences." This brazen act of intimidation only fueled our determination. We reported the incident to the authorities, who increased security measures around us. The public outcry over the attack garnered further support for our cause, with many rallying behind the call for transparency and accountability. As the election day drew nearer, the tension reached a boiling point. Zila's campaign was marred by protests, and her public appearances were met with jeers and demands for answers. The once celebrated figure was now a pariah, her reputation tarnished beyond repair. In a last-ditch effort to salvage her political career, Zila held a press conference, vehemently denying all allegations and accusing her detractors of orchestrating a witch hunt. However, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and her denials rang hollow. On the eve of the election, the authorities announced the arrest of several high-ranking officials implicated in the embezzlement scheme. Zila was placed under house arrest, pending further investigation. The party, in disarray, scrambled to nominate a replacement candidate, but the damage was irreparable.